The Temple of the Sun was used to track the path of the sun and mark the changing of the seasons, and it was dedicated to the sun god, Inti. As the son of the sun, Pachacutec gave Inti a central role in running his empire. The solar calendar governed the daily life of his subjects, from agriculture to architecture to religious festivals. And many of Machu Picchu's buildings were aligned with the stars for religious ceremonies, including the most enigmatic one of all, sacrifice. Historical writings tell us that the Incas sacrificed animals, like llamas, but also human beings, at mountain ceremonies called Cápac Hocha.
In special circumstances, such as political or climate crises, the Incas also practiced human sacrifice, especially the sacrifice of children or adolescents.
In 1954, the body of a young boy was found 5,000 meters high on the summit of a Chilean volcano. The body, mummified by the cold, is kept out of sight at the National Museum of Natural History in Santiago, Chile.
This entire set of objects is high quality. They are exceptional and exclusive pieces, which were most likely made especially to accompany the child in death.
For more than 50 years, this child's body and every object that accompanied it have been scrutinized by experts. Carbon dating confirmed that he died during the Inca period. A study of his bone and teeth development determined that he was between 8 and 9 years old. Using X-ray scanning technology, Veronica Silva Pinto is trying to uncover the exact cause of death. Highly accurate modeling of the skull has made it possible to detect a previously unseen fracture, a fatal injury caused by a hammer blow.
This weapon is a star-shaped club typical of the Inca period. Here, a wooden handle was fitted to deal the blow. Basically, the angle had to be like this. The weapon was brandished and hit him there. That's the cause of death. If he didn't die instantly, he died as a result of the blow.
A brutal way to die, but this act was not perceived as cruel by the Incas.
Death for the Inca was not as we know it. Death was a journey, so the child wasn't dying. He was joining the world of spirits and gods, and so would have greater power than if he had remained in the living world.
This child is not an isolated victim. In the 1990s, while exploring the peaks of the Andes, archaeologist Johann Reinhard discovered several other bodies of children sacrificed in the same way.
There's a very political dimension to these sacrifices of young people. As far as we know, these children, these teenagers, were often the children of the local authorities of the empire.
Ultimately, the Incas carried out these sacrifices, these Cápac Hocha, to mark places that were sacred to the local populations, by sacrificing what was most precious to them. This Inca ritual is not only a symbolic act, but also a political one.
Human sacrifice was practiced in South America long before the emergence of the Incas. But the Incas used it as an instrument of power in order to rule over other religious practices in the Andes. Religion was an instrument of conquest for the Incas. They tolerated the ancient gods and beliefs, but they physically imposed the sun religion in order to dominate all others.
This way of controlling the other gods without destroying them means that the population submits peacefully because there is no confrontation. So they also have political control.
The Inca emperor is a kind of god on earth, a kind of human son. You can only talk to him through a curtain. You can't touch him.
How did Pachacutec make himself immortal in the eyes of the people? The emperor relied on one of the oldest beliefs on the American continent, the worship of ancestors. On the outskirts of Lima, the suburbs of Puruchuco are home to the largest pre-Hispanic necropolis ever discovered. Thousands of the buried were exhumed to be preserved and studied in the laboratory.
When people die, they make a funeral bundle in the shape of a character, then place a head on it with eyes.
These funeral bundles are large cloths that wrap the body of the deceased. This is an ancestral practice in the Andes, where the dry air makes it possible to preserve remains.
When we unwrap these funerary packages, we find the body of a mummified person. It's a natural mummification, not an artificial one. Adults from the Inca era are buried in a fetal position with their hands like this.
To find out more about the deceased, these funerary bundles undergo a process called tomography, which scans and constructs the interior in 3 dimensions.
With the scanner, we can see in detail the person's sex and age, and even observe other objects inside without having to open them.
Beneath the fabric, offerings such as shells and tools accompany the deceased on their final journey.
In ancient Peru, death is like a passage to another life. That's why these burials always contain a collection of items that accompany the dead.
Unlike ordinary mortals, Inca emperors and their families were not placed in funerary bundles or buried. They became mummies, stored and displayed in niches. These royal mummies were kept in the palaces and temples of Cusco. They were honored as gods and displayed during ceremonies for everyone to see.
They were taken out to the main plaza of Cusco to celebrate. People sat with them and offered them drinks.
Ever present among the living, the deceased emperor becomes immortal. The imperial mummies also traveled to the empire's most sacred sites, including Machu Picchu. In the upper part of the hilltop city, hidden beneath the Temple of the Sun, Inca builders carved a room into the rock.
There are similarities with other Inca burials, in which a few traces of bone have been identified, which could indicate that this was a mausoleum intended for members of the Inca elite.
This cave could have housed the mummy of Emperor Pachacutec himself.
We have no proof that Pachacutec's mummy was in this mausoleum, but there are a few clues that make it probable.
Pachacutec revolutionized the religion of 10 million people, using every ancestral rite to benefit his own power.